Alright, everybody, it's that time of the month again. It's time to talk about all the movies I watched horror and horror comedy wise in June. I will not bring other movies onto the list because I just don't. Alright, this is a horror channel, so let's just keep it in horror and talk about 22 I got. So, starting at number 22, and I do watch other things, alright? There are other movies that I watched, like Kickboxer, Over the Top. I watch other genres, alright? I watch sports movies and action, so don't think that this is just all I've watched all month, alright? I watch other things, trust me. But we're going to talk about the horror movies only, in horror comedies and whatnot. So, number 22, and this is going to shock some of you, it's a movie that has over 90% on Rotten Tomatoes. Maybe I just wasn't in the right mindset when I went into it. But Possum is the worst movie I watched in June. And just to give you a quick idea of what these videos are, this isn't me reviewing every single movie I'm going to talk about. All right, I'm just going to give you a quick little brief summary of the movie, like plot synopsis and my overall thoughts, just very quick. So, Possum, highly praised movie that came out in 2018, has the bad guy from the last two Mission Impossible movies. It's got a very creepy looking doll in it, and I'm not entirely sure what it's about. I almost fell asleep because it's boring. Alright, overall thoughts, boring. Creepy doll, some creepy imagery here and there, but I was miserable throughout. Alright, so I would skip this one. I don't know what the praise is all about, but it's not that good of a movie to me. Maybe I'll watch it 10 years from now when I forget how terrible it is, and I'll be like, oh yeah, this movie, I forget why I hated it, so I'll watch it again. But yeah, Possum, 22. Next up, 21, we got One Dark Night. This is a movie that is directed by Tom McLaughlin, who did Jason Lives, Friday the 13th, Part 6, and this tells a story about a girl doing like a hazing, like that sorority thing where she's got to do something crazy to join. And she goes to a mausoleum, and there's this telekinetic guy who's bringing bodies back from the grave. Like he moves things with his mind. It's got some creepy looking corpses at the end, kind of like a poltergeist where the bodies are coming out of the ground. It's got Meg Tilly from Psycho 2, but just a very bland, just not scary at all. The acting's not good, and just wasn't a good time either. So this was another boring movie for me that I just did not find myself enjoying. So that is why it's all the way down at number 21. Number 20, this is a movie that was recommended because of its practical effects and gore, and that is Slugs. One of the main problems I have with this movie is the acting, especially from the main lead. This guy is terrible. He's the main guy. He gets most of the screen time, and he's the worst actor of them all. This movie is about mutant slugs that have teeth, and they can eat you away like the piranha and piranhas. Like, they just quickly devour you, and you become a skeleton. This movie does have some good, gnarly gore here and there. There's a guy with, like, these parasites in him. They start, like, eating away his face. He's, like, oozing out of the mouth and nose. Some cool effects here and there. But that's it. That's the only thing good about this movie. The acting's shit, and it's not shit on the level where you're, like, laughing and having a good time. Something like a sleepaway camp where it's just so over the top and bad where you're laughing. This is just like, oh God, please tell this guy to shut up. It's bad. So it's a cheesy mid-80s like horror movie. It's probably got some charm for some of you that you like that cheesy B movie feel. But I was just not enjoying it that well. It's just got some good effects here and there that caught my eye. Some good gore, but that's the only thing being offered from this movie. So, moving on to my number, 19? Another controversial, listing all the way down here. Some of you might have it in like your top 5. But that is Return of the Living Dead 2. I love the first one, but the comedy in this one did not work for me at all. There was just little moments that kind of made me chuckle, like this guy who drives like this car that looks like the Christine car. I forget what he did or who he was. It's been a while. I don't take notes for all these movies, so I'm just going off of memory on what happened and why I don't like it. But the comedy was not working for me. It was just very silly and not in a good way. I was just like rolling my eyes. It's just very childish humor. It's very PG. There's like no cussing in this movie. There's hardly any gore to it. There's no nudity. It's just they went from a R, hard R first movie to this PG movie. I think it is PG, or it could be PG-13. It ain't R. There's no fucking way. Or maybe it is, but it doesn't deserve it. It should be PG. So, number 18, we'll go to Riki-oh. This is not really a horror movie, but the gore in it and the over-the-top extreme violence makes it like a horror movie. You got a super strength martial artist who can punch holes into people's faces and stomachs, and it's just so silly. It's like an animated cartoon, but like live action. It should be like a cartoon. It's just over the top. There's a scene where they're throwing like tombstones at each other and they're just punching it into pieces. It's so freaking hysterical. I was laughing. This is when the movies are good. Like the last 3 or 4, these are just like so bad that they're good or entertaining. All these from here on up are, entertaining, bad to good to great. So Riki-oh, if you want to see a very unique foreign film, I think this is a Japanese flick. Check this one out. It's on Tubi. You can watch it for free. Next up, we got an Italian horror film. I think it's Italian. It could be something else, but it's definitely foreign because of the English dubbing, I could tell. Torso. This came out in the early, mid-70s, and apparently there were hippies in Italy. For some reason, I thought that was just like an American thing. We just had hippies back in the 60s and 70s. There was hippies in Italy, and there is so much nudity in this movie. This might have some of the most nudity I've ever seen on film. Like every other scene, there was just a group of people just naked. And this movie opens up with a threesome. And it just lingers on screen. Sure, it's kind of blurry, but it's like the opening 3 to 5 minutes. It's just a threesome. And there's like 2 chicks that are always walking around naked. So tons of boobs. So can't complain. But I predicted who the killer was almost immediately. It's like the one person they're not giving red herrings for. So you're like, all right, well, that's obvious. That's obvious. I think it's this guy because they're not shining a light on him at all. They're not giving red herrings for him. So it's always that person. And there's not really much on-screen gore at all. And when you do get like limbs, it looks fake as hell. And so yeah, it's just a whodunit, kind of, a giallo Italian horror film. Typical like mysterious killer with the black gloves and the shiny weapon. So that is my number 17. Number 16 is a movie I reviewed recently, and that is We Summoned the Darkness. This is about, I don't want to spoil too much because it's still kind of a recent film. It just came out this year. It's got Dario Argento, and it's about these 3 rockers. They meet up with these other 3 rockers, rock fans, hard metal rock fans at a concert. They take them to their house for a party afterwards, and things go nuts after that. There's some satanic stuff going on. There's some cult killings in the newspapers. Johnny Knoxville's a pastor on the TV talking about rock's the devil's music. And my main problem with this movie was just it was safe. They didn't really go for it. There's hardly any blood. There's no on-screen gore. They introduced this awesome weapon, and they don't use it at all. It's got the chick from Hellfest. So there's some familiar faces in here. Good acting, but just they should have upped the violence. Especially with a premise like this, they should have. So next up, we got a movie that was highly recommended to me by another reviewer, and that is The House of the Devil. This is a throwback to 70s, 80s horror. Just the camera technique and the camera movement, it felt very throwback. And even the opening credits, the way they play out, there's some freeze frames. It's definitely like a love letter to older horror films. It's got some, good atmosphere and some good acting from the main chick in this film. You got Dee Wallace as a cameo at the beginning. My main problem was that the ending was quick. It just quickly ended. As soon as things started to escalate, it was just over. I was like, that was quick. It's there was hardly any crescendo. It was just okay, what's really going on is revealed, and now it's just over. People are just dropping left and right. It was just too quick for me, and there's not much of a payoff at the end. The ending is just typical. So I was just not I wasn't much of a fan of this movie. Next up, we got The Final Girls. This is a slasher parody, basically, where they get sucked into a movie, like a Friday the 13th, and they just get to watch it unfold. They see these people die, and then they intervene. And my problem with this movie is that it's making fun of slashers. It's trying to pay homage to slashers, but it doesn't have anything that slashers actually have. It's got no gore. It's got hardly any blood at all. It's PG-13, and there's teased nudity. They always tease it, and they don't show it. That's what slashers are known for, the gore and the tits, and we got none of that in this. That rhymes. That pissed me off, and that's why it's so damn low. If you had gore with those kills that they were going to show, like the guy gets like a machete to the side, they could have him chopped in half, like up the creativity, up the gore, this movie would be fantastic, because I like all that meta humor. It was working for me. But damn, such a missed opportunity. Whoever came up with that idea, like, let's make this PG-13, we'll make more money. Shoot that person, because they're stupid. So, next up, this isn't even a horror movie at all, but it's a John Carpenter flick, Escape from L.A. I've seen Escape from New York a couple months ago. I didn't put it on that list. I don't know why, but Escape from L.A. I saw, and it was fine. It was silly as hell. It's the same exact premise as Escape from New York, except not as good as New York. This one has some very dodgy, CGI at the time, like late 90s, I think this came out. Like that surfing scene with like the tsunami, they're like surfing on it. It was just, wow. You got Steve Buscemi in here. They just did the same exact story once again, and just not as good, like I said. So yeah, it's fine. It's a fun movie, just a bit silly. So if you like silly movies, this is a good one to watch. And next up is a movie that I think I've technically seen before many years ago, but I can't even remember. And everything I remember that I think I remember is from Scary Movie 3. All right, Signs. I'm not sure if I've actually seen Signs before, but when I was watching it, I was just remembering scenes from Scary Movie 3. Like, oh yeah, and this happens. But it's just like I was mixing them up. So I'm not sure if I've seen this before. Maybe I have, maybe I haven't. But I wasn't recognizing too much. I just remember there was aliens at the end. I'm not sure if that's a twist. I can't remember this movie that well, but I enjoyed it. I like Joaquin Phoenix and Mel Gibson and Rory Culkin. Is that the guy from Scream 4? And it has some funny moments, like they're wearing the tinfoil hats. It was just an interesting movie. It's definitely unique. And an M. Night Shyamalan film that isn't his best work, but it's still a good enough movie to make it all the way up to number 12. So, next up, we got, I think this is also another Italian horror flick by Dario Argento, Deep Red. This is another whodunit where you got a black-gloved killer, shiny weapon. Who's doing it? This movie has some awful music, and it's so, out of place. It doesn't fit the scene. It's just so damn loud and in your face. I guess that's just Argento's style, but it was just not working for me. But there's a couple of cool kills in here. We get like a Halloween 2 kill involving like a bathtub filled with hot water. And then you got another kill where this chick just gets her head pushed through like a plate glass window and then slammed down on the broken glass. Some great kills. Intriguing mystery. I didn't know who the killer was. I couldn't predict it. Lots of style over substance. And I like the twist at the end. When you do find out who the killer is, it actually makes you want to go back and see like the clue they gave you. And you go back and you watch it like, oh shit, they did show the killer back then. So it was an interesting rewatch when you go back and watch it again. So Deep Red, high recommendation from me if you like Italian horror flicks. This is one to check out. Next up, we got a very disturbing film that was requested for me to review, and that is Chained. This is a kidnapping abduction film where this kid and his mom get abducted by a taxi driver. The mom gets raped and killed immediately, and the son is forced to be this guy's slave for the next 9 years. And it's just very disturbing. You got, I don't want to say it, Saving Private Ryan. I always say that. You got the guy from Full Metal Jacket. I always mix those two movies up every single time. Full Metal Jacket, what's his name? Private Gomer Pyle, that guy. So he's in here and he does a pretty good job playing the big menacing villain. And it's just, like I said, it's very disturbing. It's got an awesome twist at the end that I did not see coming at all. The explanation about what's happening and why, awesome. So, yeah, not a very rewatchable flick, but a damn well made low budget flick that utilizes its one location setting very well. Like, you feel like you're chained and trapped in that house with that character. Next up, number 9 is a Eli Roth film, and that is The Green Inferno. This is a movie that a lot of people don't like, and I feel like it's because they don't like Eli Roth or they just don't like the ending. And I agree on the ending. I was not crazy about this ending. It makes no sense for the character why she would do what she does. I don't want to spoil it. But this movie is basically about a cannibal cult or whatever they are, some tribe, a cannibal tribe in Peru or South America somewhere, and they're eating people because they think they're the enemy or because they eat people. I don't think it's just because they think that they're the people destroying the rainforest. I think it's just because they're cannibals and they want to eat people. They're irredeemable pieces of shits that deserve to die, but they don't. Not to my knowledge, not that I can remember. I think they all make it out alive. They should die. But there is some great gore, awesome, fantastic effects. The guy getting like ripped limb from limb, eyeballs plucked out. I think the guy gets his tongue ripped out too. There's genital mutilation. It goes there. Number 8, we got the Omen III, the final conflict. And then they made a 4th one. I think that was like straight to TV. That was that was made from the director of Halloween 5, I think, or he was making that and then they fired him. I've never seen the Omen 4. I guess the Omen 4 sucks so much that even when you buy like the Omen collection, it doesn't even come with it. Because I have the Omen collection and it did not come with part 4. So it must suck. But yeah, Omen 3, I like this one better than the first two, honestly. I like the whole idea of these, select like 7 people that have this special daggers and they're constantly trying to kill Damien, but they end up killing themselves in weird accidents, whether it's because of them being stupid or because of Damien causing it. The funny accidents was really funny. And I like the ending of this movie. It's different from the first two. The second one just felt like the first movie all over again. This one takes it in a new direction. It does something a little bit different. There's all kinds of babies getting killed, so I like that this movie has some balls to actually like show like children dying, or like the implication is there, like babies getting drowned, babies getting pushed in front of traffic. I was like, oh shit. So I appreciated that because I'm a sick fuck. Now, number 7 is Grave Encounters 2. I watched the first one last month, and I watched the second one this month, and I prefer the first one, but this one was a damn good follow-up. I like that they took the whole, like, the first movie is a movie within this movie's universe route, where there's people in this one, like, reviewing the first movie, like, that movie was awful. And then this reviewer goes to, like, the location to, like, prove it or something, or make his own movie there, like, I can do it better. And I like the concept of this film. It was written by the people who directed the first one, but they didn't come back to direct this one. And they even have a cameo inside, which was cool. So yeah, awesome concept. Some good scares. I'm starting to become a fan of found footage. Like, this is a damn good found footage film. And the first one, highly recommend them. Number 6 is a movie that I just got recently and currently have recorded a review for, and that is Hobo with a Shotgun. It is about a hobo with a shotgun, if you want a plot synopsis. And this movie is just very silly. It's very over the top with the violence. Very unrealistic. Heads getting pulled off, blood shooting out like a fountain. Chicks dancing in the blood. This town is so unrealistically like violent, and there's just criminals everywhere. All the cops are paid off, every single one of them. And you just got a hobo getting a shotgun and doing some vigilante justice. It's just a very fun movie, so highly recommend it if you're into fun, silly, over-the-top movies. And this isn't a horror movie, I know, but it's a very bloody action comedy that I really liked. It's very beautiful, too. Some great visuals, beautiful lightings, atmosphere. They use a lot of neon lights that I'm always a fan of. Next up, number 5, I think. Yep, number 5 is Session 9. This is a very eerie, atmospheric, insane asylum movie where these people go to clean out this giant fucking place, and they're going to try to do it in 1 week. Get the fuck out of here. It would take more than 3 weeks with especially with just their people. Like even with their people, like I think there's like 4 of them, more than 3 weeks. It's just crazy. But yeah, I love the twist at the end, the explanation. It's kind of ambiguous. You can kind of interpret it in a couple of different ways. Like it could be this or it could be that. I'm not entirely sure. But I just found those tape recordings very creepy. Lots of good atmosphere, some good acting, and very intriguing throughout. It's not boring at all. So, Session 9, highly recommend it. It's on Netflix as of now. Next up, number 4 is another foreign flick. I think this one's Korean or Indonesian. One of those. I think it might be Indonesian. And that is the May the Devil Take You. This one's on Netflix also, I think. This is basically, it reminded me of Evil Dead. There's just moments that felt very Evil Dead. There's a voodoo doll aspect to it, but there's like deadites almost, like people getting possessed, heads being ripped off. There's some good gore. It's very Evil Dead-esque, and I just really enjoyed it. It's very ominous and macabre and just awesome. I really liked this one, and I'm not usually huge on foreign flicks, but this one really sold me. I really dug the atmosphere and the characters and the ending. Like the last 30 minutes alone were brilliant. I just really enjoyed May the Devil Take You. Next up is a movie that I already saw many years ago, but I forgot about it until I was watching it. And I was like halfway through it. I was like, is this that one movie? And it was. And that is The Last Exorcism. This is another found footage documentary style film where this pastor who doesn't really believe in what he preaches. He doesn't really believe in the devil and God, and he doesn't believe in exorcisms, and he wants to prove it. So he hires a crew to take him out to investigate this girl who thinks she's possessed, and he wants to prove that it's all bullshit. It's just in her mind. And when he gets there, guess what? It's not in her mind. She's really possessed, and there's like this cult in town, and it's just a very great build up to that. And it's like all these red herrings and misdirection where you're like, oh, it's going to go this route, but it doesn't. It pulls the rug out from under you. Very well made found footage flick with some great acting. I really like the main lead in this movie. He's just very funny. He's just charming, and he has some just funny faces that he makes, like when he's like interrogating this one chick. Well, I don't want to say interrogating. He's questioning this one girl at the gas station. He's like, so have you seen any like UFOs? And the way he looks at the camera, like, because he just knows he's full of shit. I don't know. It's just, I love his performance in the movie. He just was awesome. So, number 3, The Last Exorcism. Number 2 is a movie I just saw recently. It just came out this year. It's a 2020 flick that I think just came straight to Amazon. It's got the maniac himself, Elijah Wood, Come to Daddy. This is a movie that when you're watching it blind, like I did, not reading anything about it, the first like 20 minutes you're like thinking it's gonna go to some like maybe supernatural route, or there's it's a whodunit. Like it's very intriguing. Like I'm like, where is this heading? And then the reveal happens, and it just turns into like this comedy. It just gets so hysterical. I was laughing left and right. There's just so much funny moments. Like, any last words? He's like, yes, tell my mom I love her. He's like, oh yeah? I'm going to tell her specifically that you don't love her. And he's like, you bastard! That made me crack up. I just love Elijah Wood's character in this movie. It's got some very silly moments in it for sure. Maybe it won't work for some people, but it worked for me, and that's why it's all the way up here at number 2. I enjoyed the hell out of it. So, Come to Daddy, number 2. Number 1 is a found footage movie, The Monster Project. I dug the hell out of this concept. It was very intriguing. I was curious where it was going to go and what was going to happen. I was on the edge of my seat. I enjoyed the hell out of this film. And it's got a little twist at the end, too, that I did not see coming. It's basically about this guy who wants to interview people who think that they're a werewolf. This one guy thinks this one chick thinks she's possessed by like a demon, and this other chick thinks she's a vampire. So he's like interviewing them for his like YouTube channel. He's trying to like get big off of it. Maybe this will get a lot of hits because it starts off with them like doing like pranks and whatnot for YouTube, like setting up scares, and they want to take it to the next level. It's just a fun movie, so I highly recommend it. And that's my ranking. What's your favorite movie from this list? What's your least favorite? some movies you watched this month that you want to recommend to me. Put it all in the comments below. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. If you like what you've seen, you can hit this like button, share it with all your friends, and become a subscriber today just by clicking on my cartoon face in about 5 seconds. And until next time, auf Wiedersehen.